Hey everyone, I recently played at the Rosemont Regional in Chicago with Infernoble Knight and I got 76th place out of about 335 people. So why am I doing a deck profile? This event was the farthest that I'd ever played at a regional, and I think I played very well overall, and with every regional that I attend, I feel I'm getting ever closer to getting that coveted first regional top. So with this deck profile, I want to give a huge shout out to the members of the Noble Knight community in particular. Rudy Torres has been a huge help for me, helping me out with not only theorying out this deck, but also helping show off a lot of the combo lines as well. And of course, the Noble Knight Discord itself deserves a shout for the wealth of information and discussion that you can find about this very deck. So with this deck profile, I want to get a little more in depth than most people tend to when it comes to deck profiles, and as a result, I'm going to be dividing this into several different chapters. And to start, I'm going to start with, of course, why play Infernoble Knight. So I think this is a really good question to ask, as Infernoble Knight is a deck that a few formats ago was a very, very strong contender to get tops with. Yet with cards like Isold and now Baron gone, it seems like a very odd choice to still be on the deck. For me personally, my reason is familiarity. I'm very well versed with how this deck functions, and I believe it's still a very strong going first deck with a very scary end board that can also be toolboxed according to the matchup. My level of familiarity combined with my opponent's likely lack of familiarity also gives me an edge over my opponent, who's more likely to interrupt me at suboptimal times, and with the way that I like to play, you can sort of obfuscate information on what deck you're playing by leading with more generic cards before peeling back the curtains and then revealing that you've been on Infernoble Knight this entire time. So post-banlist, many players have chosen to adopt their favorite sub-engines as a way to supplement the cards that the deck has lost to the ban list, and to be honest, I'm not really a fan of most of them. The super heavy Samurai engine is one that I did see very frequently, and on paper it does seem very strong, allowing you access to either a 1-card Dempsey or a 1-card Angelica that doesn't use your normal summon. However, I think the rest of the engine kind of falters to the same issues that Infernoble already has, especially now. It doesn't solve any issues as far as playing into cards like Droll or Nibiru, and the engine itself also has some minor conflictions with the Infernoble card itself, as the deck is very spell heavy, and it means you have to commit to the super heavy Samurai cards before committing to any spells or traps, which also means your play line is going to be a lot more rigid in what you can and cannot do, and it gives you a lot less flexibility in how you're able to play, especially going second. The Flame Swordsman engine is another one that I've seen players adopt, and I like this one even less. It relies extremely heavily on drawing specific cards to play, and the engine itself doesn't actually connect to Infernoble cards on its own, which relies you to draw either Infernoble names or Sinful Spoils cards in order to get your feet off the ground. It's extremely low space for non-engine, also make going second a nightmare in a format where a lot of decks now are 15 plus non-engine that can end the game very quickly. And finally, the loss of Baron makes the concept of an engine that can give you a level 5 non-tuner body a lot less appealing. That being said, these are all my personal opinions and conclusions. If you feel these engines are better either for your personal choice or for budget reasons, then feel free to play them. Now I've reached this portion of the video where I'll actually go ahead and explain each of my individual card choices, and I'll go ahead and explain what each of them do, just for those of you who are unfamiliar. So for the Infernoble Knights themselves, I just played 2 of each of the level 1s. We have 1 copy of Renaud and 1 copy of Ricardetto. Renaud, if you control a Fire Warrior, you can special summon him from your hand, and if summoned that way, you can treat him as a tuner. And then if he's special summoned, you can target a Fire Warrior or equip spell that is in your grave or banish and add it to your hand. Ricardetto is 2 effects you can only use 1 per turn. The first effect is you can banish him from your hand or graveyard and then summon a Fire Warrior from your hand, and then that becomes a tuner. The second effect is on summon. You can target a level 4 or lower Fire Warrior in your graveyard, special summon it, but that locks into warriors. I really liked these cards. These were really nice. They synergized with some of the other engines that we're playing as well. Renaud in particular is really, really strong. just because when you're playing against certain decks like Runic, they'll banish cards off the top of your deck, and this can just go ahead and grab them back. So they end up searching the cards for you. This also makes it so if you're playing into cards like Dimension Shifter, you can recycle them back no problem. And just having a lot of access to multiple level 1 tuners is great. This one's not naturally a level 1 tuner, which can be a problem depending on the combo you're going through. But usually it's not really an issue. And the fact that it's not an activated effect is special is pretty significant, because it means that once he hits the field, he's already a tuner. If your opponent negates him, he remains the tuner. So if you need to use him for synchro summons, you can still do that. Ricardetto can lock you, but only if you use the on summon effect. Banishing from your hand means that even if you draw this card and you've already expended your normal summon, that means that this card can still become a great extender. And it also means if you have cards you need to pitch, you can easily send them to the graveyard, which is something that I really like doing. And then we're playing just one of each level 4 Infernoble Knight here. Oliver, they all have the same graveyard effect, in that you target a warrior on your field if they're in the graveyard and equip it to them, and then they all give some kind of effect to the monster that you have equipped to. Oliver says your opponent cannot target it with card effects. Ogier says your opponent cannot destroy it. Neither player can destroy it with card effects. Turpin allows you to treat that monster as a tuner, and Magus says that it cannot be destroyed by battle. Oliver is kind of a bit of a situational extender. It doesn't require you to commit resources to the field, which is really nice. Its effect in your hand is that you can send out an equip spell or fire warrior from your hand or face up field to summon himself, and then he becomes level 1, which means we're end up playing about 3 monsters that can be level 1 tuners, which is pretty nice. Turpin, if he's in your hand or grave, he can special summon himself if you control a monster that's equipped with an equip card. But if it's from the grave, then he gets banished when he leaves the field. Ogier is one of the normal summons you can use. On summon, he sends a Fire Warrior or Noble Arms card from your deck to the graveyard. And this is great for getting either this in your graveyard or any of these other guys, or any other card that you really wish. It's very nice. Magus is more of a utility card than an extender like these guys are, as his effect is that when he's sent to the graveyard, you shuffle for cost up to 3 of your Noble Arms cards or Fire Warrior monsters, and then on resolution you draw a card. The reason why we're playing one of each name rather than multiples, because I have seen people play 2 Ogier, 2 Rena, 2 Turpin, stuff like that. This card is what allows you to essentially be playing multiple copies of them without actually playing them, because you can recycle them back into your deck. You can search out any of these, as a problem that you might end up having when you're playing this deck and you're playing multiple copies of these cards is that you draw dupes, and drawing multiple normal summons, such as like 2 Ogier plus like 2 Turpin, is you have a lot of these cards that are just dead in your hand. And in this deck in particular, in this meta, it's just really important to make sure that every single card in your hand does something, especially going second when you're trying to break the board, as if you're drawing dupes, then you're pretty likely to lose the game. Or if you draw a card that's just completely dead, like for example, sometimes I would draw stuff like Ogier Magus, and Ogier can do something by himself, but Magus, I need to get him out of my hand immediately, or else it's just a blank card. And playing with sometimes as few as like 3 cards against a board going second is extremely difficult to deal with, if not impossible. So that's for all of the Infernoble Knights. And then just the honorary one here, the 1 Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. This guy, he can summon himself from your hand by banishing an equip spell from your hand or graveyard, or from your face-up field or your graveyard. And then he has 2 more effects. If he attacks, then during the damage step, you can non-targeting equip any monster on the field as an equip spell that gives him 500 attack. And then the final effect is if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can send an equip spell from your face-up field to the graveyard to negate the activation and destroy it. So this is what gets you a monster negate, and more importantly, it's one that destroys. Unlike cards like Savage, like for example, that can just negate the activation. This one destroys, which is really nice, especially against certain cards like Snake Eyes Ash, or just other cards that have other effects on field besides the one that activates on summon. This is really great. What's great is how accessible he really is, as you can send this card from the deck to the grave, usually with cards like Ogier is what I like to do if I'm going second, and then Rena can just go ahead and retrieve him immediately. And then what's nice as well is the fact that these guys all equip to just any warrior. It doesn't have to be a Noble Knight monster. So what I often end up doing sometimes is go ahead, sending the Gearfried off the Ogier, summoning Renaud, adding him back, banishing an equip spell from my graveyard, summoning him, and then sending these two away to the grave for something like a Link monster or a Synchro, and then using Ogier to immediately set up the negate. That's pretty nice. The level is less significant now. He's level 9. This used to be great for Baron, but I regardless really like this card, as being able to steal without targeting, and especially doing this in the damage step, makes it so it's really tricky for your opponent to deal with that, especially if they're not familiar with this card. As in past regionals or just at locals in general, I'll attack with this guy. I'll ask if they have anything before damage step, and then if they don't, then I just activate the effect. I took a game at a regional because my opponent didn't know that this was in damage step, so I attacked into a different monster, which is what I like doing. Rather than attack into the problematic monster that I want to remove. And then I activate the effect to steal a Mirror Jade. And because I attacked into one of his other monsters rather than the Mirror Jade itself, he didn't see it as threatening the Mirror Jade, and then I was able to steal a game because of that. So yeah, this card is great. It's good going first, it's good going second. It really helps in breaking boards. It synergizes with another card that I'll talk about in the extra deck as well, which is really nice. And now we'll just go ahead and go off to the archetypal spells. We're playing 3 Museum. This card is insanely broken. Even with some of the cards that people are playing the meta right now, such as Ghost Spell. It has 2 effects. Both of them are hard not once per turn at all. Such is why I maxed out on 3 copies. You can pay 1,200 life points to add a Noble Arms card except itself. And then if you activated that second effect this turn, or if you just activated the second effect, you can target a Noble Knight monster in your spell and trap zone, and then special summon it. But if you did not control Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles, when you activate that effect, it locks you into warriors for the rest of the turn. This is great just because this card is an insane extender, just because you can draw multiples of it and it doesn't matter. You can use both copies. It's an extremely strong card going second, as normally the problem with opening this card and no monsters is you're going to be searching out the equip spell. So if you don't have anything to equip to, you can instead equip to your opponent's monsters just fine. And what I like as well is they don't have to be monsters that are treated as equip cards. As long as they're in your spell and trap zone, you can use the effect to summon them out, which comes up for usually for some more freestyle lines, but it also means if your opponent is placing some of your monsters in your spell and trap zone, such as with cards like Flamberge, you can summon them out, so then you never have to deal with losing the cards in your spell and trap zone forever. And then let's go ahead and talk about some of the equips. We're only playing the 2 here, just one of each. Durandal, Almace. Both of them have the same type of effect, where you can only use 1 effect per turn. The first effect is one that gets activated on field, and then on resolution they'll destroy themselves. And then their graveyard effect is that if they're sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster was sent to the graveyard, they have a unique effect that triggers. Durandal on field will add a level 5 or lower fire warrior, then destroy itself. And if it's sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster was sent to the graveyard, you can reborn a level 5 or lower fire warrior, and then that locks into warrior monsters. This is usually what I'm trying to get off Museum, as it's just the searcher that gets me in any of my monsters. The graveyard effects can come up for some weirder lines, or in some cases it can come up for for just a defensive play where I end on having this card equipped, my opponent removes the equipped monster, and then I use it to go ahead and get an extender out. For example, like I can target Ricardetto in grave, use Ricardetto to bring back Ogier, send something, and now I've gotten 2 bodies off my opponent, removing 1 monster, which is pretty great. Almace, he can tag out into Infernoble Arms from my deck or graveyard and then destroy it itself, so this can be another copy of Durandal without actually playing another copy of it. And then if it's sent to the graveyard, it allows me to add back a Fire Warrior from my graveyard or banished. This can target extra deck monsters, which is how you can recycle some of them, as Magus, because it shuffles for cost, it cannot recycle extra deck monsters. So this is how you can get some of your extra deck monsters back if you need them. As for why we're not playing multiples of these, because I've seen like 2-3 Durandal in the past, this was significant, as it was just more copies of like your starters. But the problem is when you're drawing, for example, Durandal plus Museum, your Museum becomes a lot weaker, because then your Museum is essentially just searching a card that doesn't do anything. And I'd rather search these out as part of my combo to turn on the second effect rather than open them. And again, the Almace can serve as an extra copy of the Durandal should I need it, so then I don't have to, like I've said, double up on them. Okay, and then just lastly, we have just 3 of each of the search spell, and then the 1 Rhoda. These are just consistency pieces. Rhoda, it's great, just extra copy of any warrior in your deck, and it makes it so you can kind of tutor your hand according to what you need, so not much else to say about that. Heritage is an insanely broken card. It has 2 effects. The first one is really what's more important, as on activation, it allows you to add any Noble Knight monster or Noble Arms card from your deck or your graveyard to your hand. This means not only can it search out, obviously, your Noble Knight monsters, and it can search out your equipped spells, but it also can search out Noble Arms cards, so this can also grab Museum. This makes it really strong going second, as now you're playing 6 copies of Museum rather than 3. And because this adds from the graveyard, this also means that this card is never dead. Unlike other search cards, where you might eventually run out of targets, because this can add back from the graveyard, this just means that you always have targets. This does make it so your opponent can both Ash and Bell this, but I only got Belled once on this card, and it didn't really matter. The second effect is if your Noble Knight that's equipped with a Noble Arms card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can add it back to your hand. This used to come up more often, but the problem is, due to rulings, the monsters that you're ending on are treated as Noble Knight monsters while they're in the graveyard, so this effect won't really be able to trigger. It can come up in like some weirder grind games where maybe you have Heritage in graveyard and your opponent hand traps you, and then maybe you just like equip a Noble Knight with something and then pass, so that way if your opponent kills it by battle, you can add it back. It is something that might be worth knowing, but otherwise this is pretty much just going to be more of a consistency card than anything. It's really broken, it's really great. And again, it makes it so you no longer have to play multiple copies of all of these cards. Instead, I can just play 1 of each. And then I can, if I open these, then I can just go and use Heritage to search out another piece. The argument against playing 1 copy of everything is for Droll. However, I actually think this deck can play through Droll pretty well. There's certain hands, of course. There was one at the regional where I got Drolled on my first search and I passed because I literally could not do anything. But I actually, just through experience, have noticed that there are a lot of hands where if you specifically play around Droll by deciding what your first search will be, you can use that to your advantage. So your opponent, when your opponent Drolls you, then you can go, okay, let me figure out how I can play. Because there's a lot of cards that can add from graveyard, special from deck. Heritage, for example, if you use like Durandal search first, for example, and then you get Drolled and you open Heritage, well, guess what? Now all of a sudden, if I have stuff like Ogier sending like a Renod to graveyard, I can just go Heritage, add this back, and then I'm still playing as if I searched this out anyway. So that's for that. And then now I just want to get into a little bit of the juicier parts of this, which is the sub engines that we're playing. As the Noble Knight cards by themselves are pretty strong. However, it's when they're combined with other engines that I think this deck really shines. And so we're playing one Beckoned by the World Chalice and then one World Legacy Succession. This looks a little silly, especially when some people see me like open this card and then I normal summon a vanilla and they're like, what the heck is this? This card I'm playing specifically, of course, for the World Chalice engine. It's just a small 2-card engine. I side this out almost always going second. There's no reason to really open these cards going second, especially vanilla. As for why this card specifically, because I've seen people say like, oh, why don't you play like World Chalice because it's level 5. That's not a great card. You can't normal that at all. The other ones are just not types or attributes that matter. And this is both a level 4 and a warrior. So this comes up for certain combo lines as well. And of course, being level 4 means I can normal summon this to get it out of my hand. And I can summon like Oliver, for example, and then still combo. Succession is just a very generic monster reborn. You target any monster in your graveyard and then summon it to a zone at link monster points too. This comes up for combo, but sometimes throughout my combo, I might just not use this card at all. And so at the end, I might use this to succession back like a different name, such as Gearfried, for example, that I sent to the graveyard, so I don't have to add it to my hand, and I don't have to banish an equip spell from my graveyard. So sometimes it comes up and it's really handy. Of course, this is a fire deck and it's playing level 1, so I'm just playing the entire Sinful Spoils engine, and I'm also playing Snake Eyes Poplar, which is a bit unique. As in the past, people were definitely playing, of course, the Diabell Stars, the Wanted, and the original. The Poplar is part of a new combo line. I'll go ahead and explain the engine real quick before I explain this card. Of course, if you're unfamiliar with this at all, you know, Wanted, this is the quick play search card. It adds a Diabell Star monster from my deck or graveyard, and then you can banish it from your grave, target a Sinful Spoils spell trap in your graveyard, place on the bottom, and then draw a card. So this is your consistency piece. Getting a draw is really insane, especially in a meta like this where everyone's playing hand traps. And then the 2 Diabell Star, you can special it from your hand by pitching another card, and then on normal or special summon, sets a Sinful Spoil spell or trap. Usually it's going to be original, but you can do Wanted if you already opened the original. And then this only came up like once or twice, but just the fact that if it's sent to the graveyard during your opponent's turn, you can actually pitch another card from your hand or field to summon it back, so then you can get another activation to reset. That only came up like once, in which my opponent crashed into this and I didn't know this had this effect. And then of course original, you can send any face-up card from your field to the graveyard in order to special summon a level 1 fire monster. Usually in this case it's going to be Ricardetto, just because what it means is usually throughout your combo you're getting a level 4 in your graveyard, and then sending another card, summoning Ricardetto, using his effect to reborn level 4, and then you synchro off, which is great. Once or twice I've definitely done this to summon Rena, just because his effect will trigger on special anyway to add back. It won't be a tuner, but if I'm just trying to link climb, then that doesn't matter. And also, again, this won't warrior lock you. Ricardetto on summon will. And then the Snake Eyes Poplar, as I've mentioned before, this card was a bit of a newer innovation when it comes to this build, just because you search this out as part of your combo, but it makes it really strong going second, as if you're able to take your opponent's monsters, especially in the Snake Eyes matchup, if it's of like one of these that are playing cards like Snake Eye Ash, you can use it to search out the Snake Eyes Poplar, and then use it to summon itself and then extend. And this card is a real quick explanation of what it does. If it's added to your hand except by drawing it, you can special summon it. And then its on summon effect is that it will add any Snake Eyes spell or trap from your deck to your hand. This is my only target, but this is all that's really needed. And then the second effect is, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target any fire monster in your graveyard and place it in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. And what's more significant about it compared to Snake Eyes is that Normally you're just going like Popular, place itself, maybe you're placing like Flamberge to summon it out with the Snake Eyes field spell. But for this, what I like doing sometimes is you can place your Noble Knights. And this allows you to put this allows you to put Ricardette and Renaud in the spell and trap zone when they normally are not able to exist there. And then you can use a card such as Museum, just because it doesn't have to be one that's treated as an equipped spell. So you can go Poplar, for example, place Ricardetto, and then use Museum to go and pull him up, and then trigger the on-summon effect anyway. This surprised a lot of people. I've had people like really confused when they see me do that, and they're like, "Can you do that?" And it's like, yeah, it's just because it just has to be a Noble Knight monster card in your spell and trap zone. So it's pretty funny. That's mostly just for freestyle lines. It doesn't come up in any 1 to 2 card combos generally. And then now to go and talk about the other engine that I'm playing is the 3 Battle Boxer Uppercutter, and then the 1 Battle Boxer Spar. Uppercutter, if you're unfamiliar, on summon, it can add either a counter trap from your deck to your hand, or a Battle Boxer monster accept itself. In the past, people were using this to go ahead and search Flamveil counter, as this gave you a way to beat Dark Ruler no more. And people were just playing 1 copy of this card. However, because Isolde is now banned, that card, that play isn't really possible anymore. And I decided to go with this as my normal summon, because this allows you to 1-card combo. It's really similar to Neospace Connector, as it makes you play a brick, but unlike Dolphin, Spar is a brick that you can get out of your hand without using it as your normal summon, or without using other cards to get it out, as you sometimes will go through some of the other Battle Boxer monsters, and then this card becomes live. And the second effect of Uppercutter is that if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, it allows you to non-targeting summon a Boxer monster from your graveyard, or reset a counter trap from your grave. Again, the counter trap part doesn't come up as I'm not playing that card, but it means you can summon back Spar, or you can summon back the Boxer extra deck monster that we're playing. And what's really cool is normally, because this card's a 1 effect per turn, you're only ever using this for the search effect. However, in certain combo lines, especially the 1-card combo line, you can send this card to the graveyard and then trigger its effect during your opponent's turn to bring back a body, which just gives you a lot more resiliency, and it gives your opponent more bodies to deal with. And then just quick explanation of Spar. It's very simple. It's just a 1-sentence effect. It's if your opponent, or if you control a Boxer monster, you can special summon it from your hand, and if you do, you cannot conduct your battle phase for the rest of the turn. It's really broken in that this effect is not once per turn, and it's not an activated effect, meaning your opponent can't interrupt this at all. But the fact that you have to give up your battle phase comes up a lot going second, as you have cards like Gearfried, where its removal comes from the fact that you can attack over something and equip something. So Spar forcing you to give up your battle phase really sucks. Obviously this doesn't come up going first, so then this card is just it's so absurdly busted. But it comes up a lot going second, which is why I don't really like this engine as much as I like right now. In the future, I'm definitely gonna mess with the other engines besides this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the 1-card combo. It's a very small package, meaning I can side out of this, which I do sometimes, and then I can still I can play just fine with that. And this is just a 4-card engine. And then also about Uppercutter, compared to cards like Neospace Connector, it has 1600 attack, which means it can actually either trade or just completely beat over certain smaller endboard pieces that your opponent might have, such as Appaloosa, IP, or SP Little Knight. Especially under the field spell, it becomes a 2100 attack normal summon. So sometimes what you can do is go Museum, Durandal, then grab Uppercutter Search Spar. Then you keep this in your hand, you go battle phase, you attack over something, and then main phase 2 you combo, because Spar just only restricts you from conducting your battle phase for the rest of the turn. So you can use your battle phase and then summon them out later. It means you have to use your battle phase earlier than you usually want to, which usually means you can't go for game, but this deck produces some really scary end boards, even going second, so usually that's not a huge issue. And now we're just going to talk about the non-engine real quick. I played 14, which is a bit of a weird number. I'm playing 43 cards. And I was originally playing 45. However, I wanted to just shrink down the deck size a little bit, so I had a higher chance to just draw multiple non-engine rather than one. As even at the regional with 43 cards, I was having issues where I was only drawing one hand trap, and if I was playing 45, then that chance of drawing two would be even lower. So it's just the basics that people have been playing this format: 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Veiler, 3 Imperm. That's as far as hand traps. We're playing the 1 called by Insane going first or second. The 2 Triple Tactics Talent. I could play 3, however, I just like this ratio of the 2 and 1. And then the 2 Fenrir. A lot of people aren't really playing Fenrir this format, which I get because it can be kind of a terrible draw, especially going second. However, one synergy that this card ends up having with the deck compared to others is that it just gives you a body to put equips on, which is extremely significant if you're drawing cards like Heritage by itself or Museum, and you need to just get an equip spell onto a monster. Fenrir just allows you to just put one down, and this doesn't make you expend cards as it would for Diabellstar. So I usually like to keep this thing going first, just so I can have a higher chance of being able to put a body on board that can allow me to equip something without using my normal. Going second, I might side these out. However, even against certain matchups, such as Snake Eyes, it can be a decent card, just because showing your opponent Fenrir will pretty much immediately force them to interact with it, as if they're just holding Flamberge, you can summon this out, and then this will usually force them to go IP, summon out IP into SP, banish this, and then you haven't used your normal at all. You forced the removal, which is insane, because against this deck, removal is really tough. And then you just did that with 1 card. So yeah, it can be really good. As for why I'm not playing 3, it can conflict with certain cards I'm playing, especially in the side deck, as those are more likely to resolve than me putting a Fenrir down, going second. That's what I cut. That's one of the 2 cards that I cut to go down to 43. Was the 3rd Fenrir, and I didn't really miss it at all. And yeah, that's pretty much the main deck. So now I'm just gonna move on to the extra deck. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go over the extra deck here. It is mostly standard, I would say. There's just a couple different tech choices I'll go over, and it's pretty much all engine requirements as well. There's about 1 flex spot here, which I'll go over. So as far as for the Infernoble Knight stuff, we're just playing the 1 Angelica, the 1 Captain Roland, the 1 Synchro Charles, and the 2 Link Charles. Angelica on special summon will allow you to add either Horn of Oliphant, which is the trap card, or a card that mentions Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles, which in our deck is just going to be that 1 Museum here. And then her second effect is if she gets targeted by a card effect or an attack by either player, as a quick effect, she can send a Fire Warrior from your deck to the graveyard, and then she banishes herself until the end phase. And then this will also allow you to summon a Roland monster from your deck or extra deck. Usually it's going to be the Captain Roland here. Yeah, pretty great card. This is what gets your combo going. This is your newest Zolde, which is why the deck is able to still play without that card, is this card will pretty much replace that card. Captain Roland is usually not really coming up for his effect because you're cheating him out, but if you synchro summon him properly during the end phase, you can activate the effect that allows you to send any equip spell from your deck to the graveyard and then add any warrior monster from your deck. This can come up if you have already gone through your museums, or if you just don't have targets for them. You can just properly synchro summon this and then summon any level 4 non-tuner to get into Charles. The graveyard effect is during either player's main phase as a quick effect, you can target any warrior on the field and then give it a 500 boost by equipping it. So this allows you to kind of act as a quick effect version of some of your level 4 Noble Knights, which allows Charles to be a great interruption. For Synchro Charles, this is level 9 Synchro. This is usually what you're going to be laddering into near the end of your combo. If either player equips an equip spell to any monster on the field, even during the damage step, he allows you to destroy a card on the field non-targeting. During the end phase, he allows you to equip any equip spell from your hand or graveyard to him. And then if you do that, you can equip Fire Warrior from your deck to him that gives him a 500 attack boost. So this allows you to, for example, if you have cards in your grave such as Durandal, then you can go end phase, Charles equip, and then when you do that, you can equip one of your Noble Knights from decks, so this will give protection. Usually we're not ending on this though, as we're ending on the new boss monster, the Link 1, Emperor Charles the Great. The Link material is pretty funny, as it's a Link 1 to 3000 attack, but the material is that it requires Charles equipped with an equip card. Usually I use Captain Roland for this. However, you can also use any of the equip spells, such as All Mace, to trigger their graveyard effects, or you can use your level 4 Noble Knights as well. On Link Summon, he allows you to target a Synchro Charles in grave, equip it to him to give him a 500 attack boost, but he also copies the name and effects, which means that he becomes a Noble Knight monster, and it also means, for example, if you have cards like Museum out, this means that the Warrior Lock won't apply, since you control either the Synchro or the Link. And then finally, the other effect that's really broken on this card is if your opponent activates a spell, trap, card, or effect, you can send an equip spell from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard to negate the activation and destroy it. This is not hard once per turn, which is why we're playing 2, because with cards like Museum, for example, you can summon Emperor Charles, go and equip him, and then Link 1 for the Link Charles, use his effect target, use Museum to go and pull this up, and then equip another one. Do that, and then boom, boom, and then now you have 2 spell trap negates. Because it copies though, because it's copying the effect to destroy and equip, you can only still do that once per turn. So you don't get 2 pops, you don't get 2 equips in end phase, but that's fine because the spell trap negate is what's much more important here. And then also, this card inadvertently plays around cards like Super Polymerization, as people usually try to go into a Garura. If you're ending on just these, as what you can do is in your end phase when Angelica comes back, you can go for the end phase effect to equip, and then on resolution trigger the effect of destroy, getting rid of this. So if they want to go Super Polymerization to Garura, they can't, because even though these are 2 monsters with the same type and attribute, they're not 2 monsters with different names. That's come up like once or twice for me randomly, that the opponent will try to Super Poly these away. Or even if you're ending on stuff like Gear Freed, so your opponent will be able to resolve it, you're still going to have the 1 Charles up, so you're still going to have the negate, which is pretty significant. Especially into those matchups that are going to be playing Super Poly. Usually those decks are pretty spell heavy. And then showed a little bit of a teaser of this before when I was explaining the engine, but we're playing the 1 copy of Ib, the World Chalice, just this year. This card came off the ban list, last ban list, and it's been pretty great, honestly. It's a spellcaster tuner, which means you can use it to ladder into certain cards. It doesn't come up anymore because I'm no longer playing any like significant synchros to ladder up into. You can go to Charles with this, however you usually like to use Roland. Its effect is that on Synchro Summon, it allows you to add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand, so usually I like to go for Succession. And then if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, it allows you to special summon any World Chalice monster from your deck or graveyard except for itself. So we go for Beckon here because it's a level 4 warrior. But what's great is that because it allows you to summon from your graveyard, this means that opening Beckon doesn't immediately kill off the engine. And if you're playing cards like Diabellstar and you open these 2, for example, you can just go ahead and send this to the graveyard, special out, and you can still use it just fine. And usually I go for this first over Angelica because using the World Chalice engine allows you to link climb and then later go into the Angelica rather than going to Angelica first, or your end board is going to be a lot weaker. So that's where we're playing that. It allows you to extend a lot further, to have a lot more threatening of an end board. And usually it forces the opponent to go ahead and drop hand traps earlier. So let's go ahead and move on to the Xyz monsters. We're just playing two. Battling Boxer King Dempsey and Infernal Flame Banshee. Dempsey is really insane on special summon. He just allows you to add or dump either a Battling Boxing spell trap or any level 4 or lower fire warrior. So this, in the 1-card combo, I use this to grab Renaud. However, it can literally just do anything. If you for example, if you have enough names in graveyard, like you can send Magus and then trigger Magus to draw. It's really versatile. The second effect is more or less just a way to get materials off it, and that's as a quick effect you can detach a material for effect, and then it makes it so your opponent cannot target boxer monsters on the field with card effects for the rest of the turn. That's mostly just to get a material off of it. Your opponent is not really going to be interacting with boxers usually, and this doesn't prevent your opponent from targeting it on summon. Some people think that you can chain the quick effect and that like will negate effect Veiler and permanence. It doesn't. You can chain to the effect just to get the material off it, which is what I like to do if my opponent tries to negate it. This can trigger Uppercutter if you want. That doesn't really come up for me though, because usually if I get Uppercutter's material, then I've already used the on summon effect. But what is great when it comes to synergy, the Uppercutter is because it doesn't target, and because it can just summon anything from the grave, any boxer monster, you can send this to the graveyard and then summon out Dempsey, and then Dempsey, because he triggers on special, can add you anything, like for example like another Renaud, or for example like an Oliver or Ricardetto or whatever you want. So that's where we're playing that. This is what helps enable the 1-card combo, and because he's a boxer monster, this means that even if I open cards like Spar, it's not completely dead, as I can make Dempsey and then summon Spar out, and then I'm still able to play. Infernal Flame Banshee is a bit of a weird one. It's this one on you can detach a material, and then this allows you to add or dump any pyro monster. We're using this of course as part of the 1-card combo to add the only pyro monster in our deck, which is going to be that Snake Eyes Poplar, and then that will trigger its effective special out. The second effect normally doesn't matter. However, I've seen some people use this as part of combos, and we use this as part of some of our like anti-Nibiru combos. If it's banished and you control Pyro monster, you can special summon it, and then I believe it gains 100 attack for each of your currently banished monsters until the end of the turn. The tech boost doesn't matter. It's more just so you can go ahead and banish this and then use it as an extender to give you another body. We're playing one Relinquished Anima. This comes up for the 1 card. This is what I replaced Linkuriboh with. However, this actually makes it a lot stronger that we're playing Anima over Linkuriboh going second. As although you could have used Linkuriboh in the past to go ahead and dodge targeted negation on your level 1s. This card actually synergizes, as I saw at the regional, very well with the Infernoble card, specifically because it equips monsters to itself. As what you can do, for example, is you can have cards such as Turpin and Gearfried are the two that I like to show this off with. However, you can also do this as well with Oliver. Because it equips a monster, you control monster equipped with an equip card, so Turpin can go and summon himself out. For Gearfried, you can actually, because this is an equip spell, you can banish it for cost. So if you steal a monster that has an effect in the grave that you don't want to trigger, you can use Gearfried to just go and remove that immediately. And then Oliver, again, because this is an equip card, you can send this for cost to go and summon it out. So Anima is really great. It's insane going second. The arrow is the only problem with this card. However, I think it's still great, even with the up pointing arrow. The rest of the Link 2s we're playing is the 1 IP, the 2 SP Little Knight, and the 1 Hida, the Fire Charmer. Hida is what we use to steal the opponent's Snake Eyes Ash, and then the Ash triggers to add the Poplar. However, just being able to link climb with this card is really insane, as everyone's playing Ash right now, Ash Blossom. And a lot of people are just playing monsters that are fire anyway, so you can just use this to link climb into stuff like SP Little Knight or other cards as well. And yeah, if it's destroyed, then we add a fire with 1500 or less defense. You can use this again to add Poplar. However, I've also used it. There's one time at locals, I actually used this to add Uppercutter because it has 200 defense and it's a 1-card starter. So then this immediately can just, if this dies, just get you to your 1-card start immediately if your opponent hand trapped you a bunch of times. IP is part of your end board for the 1 card. And I also do like how it doesn't have a requirement besides needing besides just needing non-link monsters, as it's come up once or twice that I wanted to link off for Hida in order to link climb, but I wasn't using any fire monsters, so I wasn't able to, for example, like trigger the graveyard effect of our Ib. So this will let you do that anyway if you wanted to link climb. Again, though, it's part of our end board as the 1-card combo. And it can either go into SP Little Knight or another card. For why we're playing 2 SP Little Knight, I use this either as part of my end board, or sometimes I will, for some of our anti-Nibiru lines, we'll banish this from our graveyard, and then we'll immediately link off the SP. So just having another one as backup is insane. It did come up for me at the regional that I was playing 2 rather than 1, as I got into a pretty significant grind game against Snake Eyes, Kashtira, and just having the second one to out some of his end board was really nice, as my opponent probably wasn't expecting me to be playing a second one at all. But it also gives my IP variance if I was just playing 1, as if my end board will be IP plus SP. So if I'm just playing 1, then my IP will really only be able to go into 1 monster. However, if I'm playing the second Little Knight, then this allows me to go for either the second Little Knight to trigger its on field effect to banish a card on summon, or I can just go into something else. So yeah, that's why we're playing 2 SP Little Knight, and that's what IP is for. And then that will go into either the Appaloosa as well. That's what we do as part of the 1-card combo. It's good for anti-nib lines, as the opponent will be forced to go to drop Nibiru on us. We summon Appaloosa, I believe, as part of like summon like 6 or 7. So obviously you won't be nib proof. However, you can still combo even if you cannot make it to Appaloosa. And then again, as part of the 1-card combo, I actually will IP into this, so now it can't be disrupted card effects as well. And then lastly, Promethean Princess, just insane card. I usually don't make this as part of my going first board. I usually use it when I'm cracking boards, as I can climb up into it via Hida. But really, you can, if you wanted to, you can absolutely end on this card. As what's really cool is you can have cards like Angelica that will be on your end board. Your opponent special summons a monster. You have Princess in grave. You target Angelica and another card. If your opponent has no response, you chain the second effect to tag out, and then you send cards like Uppercutter. This goes, Princess destroys, summons out, and then Uppercutter triggers the Light special from grave. So again, you can end on this, and how I get rid of this, because if you notice, I'm not playing cards like Raging Phoenix. I'm not playing cards like Snake Eye Ash to send it away. What I usually like to do is actually just send it off original. However, sometimes if I don't have access to that, or if I have already used original, instead you can use Charles to destroy it, as you don't need Charles's destruction effect to be part of any significant combo. So instead I can just get rid of the Promethean Princess through that way. I'm just gonna go ahead and go over the side deck real quick. I only have the 2 going first cards here, and that's the 1 Roland and the 1 Angelic Ring. Roland as a quick effect, so you can target any face-up monster you control and equip it as an equip spell that gives it 500 attack. And then during the end phase, if it's sent to the graveyard, because it was sent there this turn, You can add either any Fire Warrior or any equip spell, so usually we're grabbing this. And then the Angelic Ring is pretty simple. You can only equip it to a monster that's already equipped in the equip card, and then it negates the first spell card or effect that resolves while it's face up on the field. So what's cool about this is you can have a Charles here. Let's say we have Angelica. We go Roland, attempt to target this. We'll tag out with this. And then by game mechanics, this will be sent to the graveyard because it fails to equip. And then it'll be in the graveyard. And then later you combo, you end on the Charles here that's already equipped with this. You go Charles, we go Roland search, we grab the Angelic Ring. And because Charles can equip from the hand as well as the graveyard, we can actually just immediately equip this. And it has great synergy as well with Emperor Charles, as when you negate the activation of a spell or trap, that did not resolve. So then the Angelic Ring will still be live. Because sometimes what people might try to do, if they have cards like Super Poly or Droplet, is that they will like activate a spell, and they'll try to bait you. You'll go Charles, negate, and then they chain like Droplet or whatever, and then the chain will resolve backwards. The Droplet attempts to resolve. This will resolve negated. And then Charles will still negate that one spell that they activated. Even if they go activate a spell or trap first, maybe that they don't really need to resolve, and then you Charles negate it because you figure that they're trying to bait you. And then they activate like maybe like Talents, Brand Fusion, whatever. Still resolves negated. The only time this comes up is for cards like Ash Blossom, because this card negates the effect. If you Ash, for example, Branded Fusion, and you have Angelic Ring, because it's negating the effect of the card, both of these will go through. So Ash Blossom will negate Branded Fusion's effect, and Angelic Ring will also attempt to negate Branded Fusion's effect. So just keep in mind that when you have cards like this and you have cards like this on field. Yeah, and it comes up for just only negating the effect. If you negate the activation, then they'll both be live, which is insane. So that's why I played those. They're really great going. I do those going first because a lot of people will try to be boarding into like breakers against the deck because they see your deck is super wide, and they'll have stuff like Talents, so then you can just go and shut those down immediately. So that's for just a small going first package, and then going second is the rest of these cards here. It's the 3 Nibiru. These are okay. I think they're fine going into Snake Eye decks. However, sometimes they open a really solid hand where it doesn't matter where you go for it. Even if you Nibiru them on resolution of Flamber's Dragon, sometimes they can use the field spell to extend anyway, so that it doesn't matter. So this card is okay. Not the best, but it was fine. We have Bestial package here, the 1 mag 2 Druis. This card's fine. These were a little better when you could open like Druis plus Ogier and then synchro off into a Baron, when you use like Turpin to make Ogier a tuner and then go Druis Send. Even without Baron anymore, I think these cards are great. It's mostly used for beating the Gimmick Puppet lock. However, it's also great into Snake Eyes because you can go ahead and just Bestial away the IP Masquerena to prevent them from putting it in their spell and trap zone. And then that just shuts off the interruption that they would normally get from Flamberge, and then the float as well. This is why I played those. These cards were pretty good. I like this over DD Crow because even though Crow can hit other non-light and dark monsters and stuff like that, the fact that this gives you a body to just link off with is insane. And also against Randed, because they're playing cards like Tribute and Mercurier, you can try to Bestial in their end phase, so that way if they already have Mercurier, they're forced to do it, so then they negate it and then they pass back to you. Then in your draw phase, when they try to puppet lock it, you can go for it again. If you have Crow, they negate it and it's over. And I just would rather have a card that allows me to immediately play with or without the Mercurier being a factor. So that's why I played those. Eclipse was okay. This was mostly for Pearly. I never played that matchup. Even when I was testing this card at locals, I was not playing that matchup. It's fine. It can be good into Snake Eyes going when you go first, as you can flip their 2 monsters when they show you 2 monsters, and they can't really do much with that. It's okay into Centurion, since you try to flip their monsters when they attempt to synchro. Yeah, it has a lot of applications. However, it was just kind of, it was mediocre. overall. Might just be how I used it, or it might just be the hands that I opened, where I opened Eclipse and then my hand wasn't already that good. So yeah, this card was fine. I might play going forward, might not. And then we have just the last 4 cards are just for stun decks mostly. However, it's also just backer removal. So the 2 Lightning Storm. This card is like fine. You can side it into Snake Eyes. Again, it's pretty variable. If they're ending on a lot of Link monsters, you can just storm them all away. So that's pretty good. You can force out the IP play when they put it in the spell and trap zone. Just get rid of the field spell as well. I played stun. I didn't see this card. However, I won without it, so it doesn't really matter too much. I could like cut this for 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and then like this for another card in the future. And then this is pretty much the only spice that I'm playing here, is just the 2 Golden Lords. The idea behind this is because this deck has a lot of spells and traps that you want to send to the graveyard. You can use this as removal, more importantly, into more than just spells and traps. As against stun decks, they do have cards to play around the Lightning Storm. And they can Judgment, for example, your Cosmic Cyclone when you try to like get rid of the field spell. When you have stuff like this, you can either get rid of the Runic field spell, or you can get rid of a barrier statue, depending on which you feel is more threatening. This can out stuff like Colossus as well, which doesn't have destruction, or which only has destruction protection. You can out the Centurion field spell, since you have first action as turn player. Just go and send it away. If they chain a summon, then they won't get anything out of it, which is really nice. I didn't see this card often when I sided it. I only sided like once at locals, but it was good. It outed a card that I didn't need to deal with on the follow-up turn, so then I can have like Charles pop, I have Lord Send, all that other stuff. It's pretty nice. And more importantly, compared to Lightning Storm and Cosmic Cyclone, is that it can add itself back to my hand by sending a spell or trap from my field to the graveyard, and the ability to summon itself or just any zombie is optional. So you have, like, for example, you can have equip spells on your field, you can send them, add it back to your hand, and then you can keep going over and over. So when you're in those grindier game states against stun decks, you always just have spell or trap removal, and they'll eventually run out of cards because you're recycling. You're recycling your equip spells, and they're gonna run out of fountains, and they're gonna run out of stun cards, so then you can just summon this out. It's good for extension too. If you're trying to just link climb, as you can just summon this out, and it's a zombie, so it plays under cards like TC Boo. So you can have like Roland, like for example here, link off for Anima, summon Golden Lord, and then link off for SP Little Knight, banish, and then keep playing. So that's just another great reason to play this card. So real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and go over the rounds as well. I played, in the 9 rounds, I played 2 branded. I played 4 Snake Eyes decks. Half of them were pure, the other half were the Kashtira variant that's been floating around. And then I played 1 Runic Stun, and then I also played Centurion as well. And then I believe in round, I believe it was 8, I played pure Kashtira. The matchups are fine. I honestly do like pairing into the Snake Eyes decks, just because having that play of going for Hida, take the Ash, forces out a lot. I had a guy, they were playing Snake Eyes Kashtira, and I took their Ash twice, and I had different results based on those 2 games there. They're very grindy, and because this deck has insane grind game, I was able to keep up just fine. So for example, against them, Hida took their Ash, grabbed Poplar, Search, and there's kind of a really tricky spot for them to be in, because they had an established board set up, and they had 2 copies of Poplar on their field as well. They chose to Nibiru me there because I had essentially the link materials to make an Appaloosa, and then just keep going, as I could link off the Poplar and then original send that Poplar, so that I wasn't losing monsters on field as well. That's where they chose to Nibiru me. And they also had a Poplar on field as well on their own side, so then they were like, oh, well, I can just, place this and I'll be fine. So that was that matchup. The toughest one was probably the pure ones, actually. Just because those decks are insanely loaded up on hand traps. So it was pretty much like I would get triple hand trapped, and then I would have to keep playing. Like there was the guy that I played against, I want to say he Ash impermed me, and then I used talents to look at his hand, and then I was looking at Mourner and Nibiru. Thankfully, because I had the line in my head to play around the Nibiru, I just shoveled away the Mourner. However, it's the fact that those decks can open up 4 hand traps and then also show you Ash Poplar. That can make them very tough to play into. Branded is insanely easy to play into, just because you have the spell and trap negates. Yes, there's the fact that Branded Lost kind of forces Charles. However, if you have double Charles, you can essentially put them on, open multiple copies of Branded Fusion, or else you just negate that one and it's over. And because what I had seen is that a lot of these Branded builds are playing over 40 cards. So in the second matchup that I played when I played Branded, I actually sided out those copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Last minute, I went for Veilers instead, and I actually ended up drawing the effect Veilers over this. And it paid off because I was noticing I wasn't really getting hand dropped a lot. So instead, I can just essentially use cards like Magus to draw into Ash Blossoms, to draw into Imperm's effect Veilers. So that way my board is has a lot more variance in how it interrupts the opponent, and that was winning me games. So Branded can be tough, but if you have the Angelic Ring and you have the double Charles, it's really difficult for them to deal with it. You can get stopped on stuff like a normal summon to Albaz. However, if you rotate into getting Gearfried in rotation, or if you just are hard opening the effect Veilers and the impermanences, or opening like a line that ends on Appaloosa, then you can also deal with the Albaz that way. I did play one stun, and the stun matchup was a lot better than I realized. Just because like a lot of the floodgates that they're playing in the past, such as TC Boo, that card's limited. Summon limit is now just completely banned, so I never have to deal with that card ever. Those are the cards that this deck really struggled with. It doesn't really play into Rivalry that hard. You can easily play it around it once your opponent shows you that they have Rivalry. If you like summon a Diabell Star, you summon a Warrior, they flip Rivalry. Well, you can just send away the Diabell Star, then combo as if nothing happened. And then there's the guy that I played against was playing Synchro Zone, which he felt like was really strong into the matchup as I was ending on Link monsters. However, the fact that Charles can just pick apart the board over and over, even if I can't immediately kill them, that just kind of makes it so that card is a little useless. The only card I saw on my side when I played Stun was Eclipse, and it didn't win me the game because they weren't summoning Floodgates. I don't even know if they were playing any Floodgate monsters. And that matchup, they showed me post match that they were playing, I believe it was Trickstar cards. I never had them come up though, and I don't think they really would have, as I can, if they banish equip spells, I can just Magus put them back and as if nothing happened, so it's not really that crazy. Centurion can be tough just because they play a lot of hand traps, and they if they see like a 1-card starter, then it's kind of over if you just can't put up any interruption at all. Like I went second in round 9 against the Centurion guy. I opened triple Uppercutter and Veiler. I Veilered the Primera, I believe that's the Searcher, and then they showed me the field spell anyway, and it was kind of over since I didn't have any ways to stop the lock once they set it up. And then in the second game, just because it was round 9 and it was like 9 o'clock, I did not play very well. I had a really strong hand, and they had some kind of tell that showed me they had Nibiru in their hand, and I absolutely had the way to play around it, and I just made the mistake of overcommitting my hand, and I summoned 5-6 monsters in my field, and they dropped a Nibiru, and I opened one Veiler again, and then they opened the field spell again. So yeah, I would say a lot of these losses were some of them felt like I didn't have any chance, like they just Exodia'd me. However, I still feel like even against some of these matchups, I think given the correct play, given the correct side, I think this deck can absolutely push through a lot of these decks that are even like tier 1 or tier 2. Now I'm gonna go and show off some of the combos that I performed. I'm just going to show off really just about 2 here. I don't really feel like a lot of it with this deck is very freestyle. So you don't have to follow these to a T. However, I just want to show off the 1 card here so you kind of get an understanding of how this deck functions. So this is just going to be off the 1 Battling Boxer Uppercutter. And then just 4 other cards in hand. They could just be anything. So we'll start by normal summoning Uppercutter and then activating the effect to search. This will get us the Spar, and then because we control Boxer monster, we can just immediately go and summon him out. And then we can overlay here. This will get us into Dempsey. We can go and trigger his effect on summon. We'll add Renaud here. And then now from here, we just go and activate the quick effect. If our opponent says okay, then we detach a material for effect. It's a little weird, but it's fine. In most cases, even if your opponent stops it, it's it's a pretty bad spot to stop. And then because we control a Fire Warrior monster, we can just special summon Renaud, activate the effect to add back the Spar. And then again, because we control a Boxer monster, we can just immediately summon him. We synchro these 2 away. For our Ib, we can go and activate this effect on summon to search for any World Chalice card. Or sorry, any World Legacy card. Which the only one we're playing is just the 1 copy of Succession. So just make sure these cards are in frame. Go ahead and link these 2 off. In the past, I was doing Hida, however, just to conserve the Hida and to serve as more interruption, I actually went for IP here. We'll trigger Ib because she was a synchro summon card that was sent from the field to the graveyard. This will grab ourselves the copy of Beckoned by the World Chalice. We can go Succession. It doesn't really matter where we target, we just have to target a level 4. So we'll just go for Uppercutter here. Get these 2 away. And it just doesn't matter because we're just going to immediately overlay. For Infernal Flame Banshee, we can activate the effect Detach. This will allow us to search for a Pyro monster, which is Snake Eyes Poplar, trigger its effect, special summon itself, and then go and add the Snake Eyes Speller Trap, which is going to be that original Sinful Spoils. Now we're going to do something a little different here, as we're just going to link off for the Snake Eyes Poplar. And the reason why we're going to trigger this here, also targeting itself, the reason why we do this now instead of later is because we want a material to send off original that's not a monster. And we need Anima, and we can't go for something like Little Knight because we need to use Little Knight in a little bit. So now we're just going to send the Poplar off the original, and then we'll get our Ricardetto, and then we'll target again level 4. It doesn't matter which one because we're just gonna synchro away with this, and then now we go into Angelica, and then now we can go ahead and search. Sorry, this is the grave. So here, of course, we're going to add the museum, and then just go ahead and make sure this is in frame. I'll just place it up here. So we'll activate the effect. We'll pay 12 to get the Durandal. Now, what's interesting here is in the past, because we didn't have any way to target the Angelica besides the equip spell, as if we check our graveyard, we don't have any names that can target Angelica in the grave. So that was a bit of a significant problem. However, because we chose to link off the Poplar for the Anima, because we didn't lose any resources, we are warrior locked. However, we can do something a little interesting here, and that's by linking these 2 away. For Little Knight, we trigger its effect. We use 2 extra deck monsters for it, so we can definitely activate the effects. We can target the Angelica to banish because you can target cards in either player's field or grave. Then we can go and chain that effect to tag out. Then we can send Magus. She gets banished to the end phase, and then we summon the Roland monster, and then now we go and trigger Magus here. We can just shuffle away. I usually like to go for Ricardetto, Renaud, and then from here, it really just doesn't matter. This could either be Uppercutter or it can be Spar. I like to put Spar back, that way if we draw into Uppercutter on subsequent turns, then we can still have a search target. So we'll just draw one. I'll just put a talents here just to represent that draw. And then we can go Durandal, target Roland. Doesn't matter what card we target, but we're just going to go and do that. We'll search. And here we'll grab Turpin. And we can do instead is, because we have Magus in our graveyard, we can use this to target Little Knight. And then now because we have a monster equipped with an equipped card, we can summon Turpin, and he won't be banished because we summoned him from our hand. So we can synchro these two away. Make Charles. And then I just like to expend the Turpin equip here just in case. So we can Turpin equip the Charles, and then we can go link one. Make this. The zone doesn't matter, but we can go target equip. And then now we can use Museum to go ahead and special out, and we can go Roland. The order doesn't matter if we go Turpin first or Roland first, but I just like to do it in this order. And then we can go and summon to this IP arrow. We go Charles, target the Synchro Charles. And then from there we have 5 cards in hand, so then we can go and proceed to the end step. I like to just resolve Angelica first, just in case we want to play around Super Poly. And then we can go ahead and activate, I think in this case we'll go for the Charles that doesn't have an equip on him. So we'll go equip the Durandal. And then from deck, I actually, for this scenario, just so we can show off the max value we can get out of this, we can actually just go and go for the Ogier. And then when our opponent passes back, or when we pass back to our opponent, we can go ahead and go Charles. We can go and send this. It's important not to send the Durandal. So we can go negate this, and then from there, if our opponent has, maybe they're going to go into some monsters later, we can just IP now, and then we can go and link off. We did this one, and then the Angelica, because she's not doing anything. These will go to the graveyard. And then we can go into Appaloosa. And then from here, important thing is going to happen, and that's going to be that Durandal is going to trigger because we linked off this Charles that was equipped. We can target Ogier. Ogier comes down, and then Ogier will send from deck to grave. Also, we're locked into warrior monsters, not that it matters. We send Uppercutter, and then Uppercutter triggers because he was sent to grave by card effect. And remember, we have this Dempsey in grave. We summon Dempsey back, and then Dempsey triggers on special. And then we can add... we can just go and add another Uppercutter if we really want. And then you can see we have 6 cards in hand now. We have not used any from our hand yet. So if we have hand traps, for example, these will be used. Our Appaloosa can't be destroyed by card effects. It has 3 negates. We have Little Knight, which is cool here. A little interaction is when Little Knight banishes herself into the end phase. This will fall off because it's not equipped to anything. And then Magus can go and trigger. And then we have more names to just go and shuffle back and draw one. So like in this example, we have Uppercutter Durandal. And I like to keep Turpin and Grave, so let's just keep him there. And then the other Uppercutter. And then we can just cycle these back. And then we draw another card here on top of what we already have. So this is pretty insane. This is just off the 1 card end board. And for this combo, I want to give a shout out to Rudy Torres, aka Scarlight. He was the one who helped innovate this combo, as in the past, what people were doing instead, when you were doing the Boxer Ib stuff, is that you were having to use your Durandal in order to target the Angelica. And while what you could do instead is post side search Roland, and then Roland target the Angelica, so you get a little more value out of it. This combo with using the Anima allows you to target the Angelica without using the equip spell, so then you get a lot more value out of your equips. And it also allows you to do the IP play where you go into the Appaloosa. And then this is where the this is where the second Little Knight comes up that I mentioned earlier. As if the opponent isn't really playing a monster heavy deck and you're just trying to remove cards because you already have one on field, and this one will only be able to banish monsters until the end phase, you can IP into the second SP Little Knight and then just get rid of something. And then again, you still have the Durandal float as well if you wanted to do that play where you bring back Ogier, send Uppercutter, and then Uppercutter trigger. So that's the 1 card combo. Now for this combo, I want to give a shout out to Chrome Tiger 24 on Discord, I believe is their name. They're the one who helped innovate this combo. This is a anti-Nibiru combo, and it's just a really simple 2-card combo, actually, surprisingly enough, and it's very consistent. It just requires rank 4 access. In this case, this will just be Battle Inbox or Uppercutter, and then any extender. In this case, I'll choose Museum, because the Museum will really get you the max value out of your combo. However, if it's another card such as Renaud, or this could even be Fenrir as well, I'll also show kind of what you lose as you get little worse and worse extenders. So we'll just go ahead and lead with the Uppercutter, and then activate the effective search. Get the Spar. And then from here, actually, because we open Museum, we go and activate it. Pay 12 to search. And then we'll get the Durandal again. Wherever it is, right here. Go activate, equip, search. And then we're gonna grab Rena just so we have our second body, which is all we really need is just another body, because we're gonna overlay here in a little bit. We'll summon Rena now because we're not gonna have a Fire Warrior in a little bit. So we'll activate the effect and we'll add back the Durandal, which might seem a little weird because we've already used the effect, but this will come up later. So we'll summon, and then this will be, I believe this is summon 4 now, as Infernal Flame Banshee. So now we go for this. And then we get the Poplar like we always did, and then this will be, I want to say summon 5. Once Poplar resolves and it summons itself, we get the original Sinful Spell. So they could absolutely Nibiru us here. However, there's kind of a big problem, and that's the fact that this guy is on field, because if this goes to grave, then we immediately place itself, we original send this, and then we just keep going. This is not really the best spot to nib. So instead, our opponent will just say okay, because they're like, you know, you're not really showing anything threatening. So now we go Little Knight, and we use Banshee as material, so this will allow this to trigger, and we target the Banshee. And this looks a little weird because we banish this. This will trigger because it's banished, and we control Pyro. This immediately summons itself. Our opponent could nib here. This is probably the best spot to nib, because if you tag out, or in response to the effect targeting Banshee, this is probably the best spot, is if you tag out here, you won't have any materials, and then by the time this is banished, you don't control Pyro, so this doesn't trigger. So that is probably the best spot to do. Most people won't really know that though. So this will resolve, and then now you're showing Link 4 materials for Appaloosa. So at this point they have to Nibiru. This is the last chance for them to do so. And then if they don't, then you just go and link these off. Make our 3 material Appaloosa Poplar triggers. It doesn't really matter what we scale, what we place here. So I'll just go for itself. Now we can go original, send this away. This will get our Ricardetto, and we're done summoning non-warrior monsters, so the warrior lock won't really be relevant anyway. And again, same thing. We already we don't really care what we're summoning back with the Ricardetto, so then we can go for this. Now at this point, we actually already opened Museum, so then we can grab the other one, and this will allow us to grab All Mace, which is pretty cool. So this is what we have the Durandal for, is we can target Chain. And then in this case, we want to get some names in rotation. And we want to get access to Gear Freed, more importantly, so we have multiple monster negates, because this one won't destroy, and being able to destroy is really insane off gear. So we'll summon these out. This will go to grave. We go Ogier, target Roland, and now because we have the second museum, we don't have to worry about saving this museum summon for Charles. So we can go effect target, trigger this. We get warrior locked again, but we were already warrior locked, so it doesn't matter. Now in this case, we're going to send the Gear Freed. And now we can synchro these two away. For Charles. Now we're just going to activate the other museum right now. We'll pay 12, search. We get All Mace. Target, equip, link 1. And then just to play around Ghost Bell, I like to go Chain 1 All Mace, targeting the Gear Free, Chain 2 Charles, Sega Charles. Not really relevant if they're gonna Bell there. Usually they would drop it somewhere else. So this goes back to our hand. And then we go Museum, pull this up. Because we didn't use Roland yet, we can go to Equip. Like 1. We go boom. Equip this. Gear Free, you can go and banish. I like to banish the All Mace. It doesn't really matter because we'll recycle this with Magus later. So we proceed to end step. Pass back. And then resolve this. Equip. We'll go for Durandal. And just so we can get some recovery, I go for Magus here. However, Oliver is also just equally as strong, as it also means your opponent won't be able to just draw phase imperm. One of the Charles, which has come up for me, that I equipped Oliver specifically, so that my opponent can't target it. Also means they can't Flame Burst target it. All this other stuff that's really good. So yeah, you can go for this for safety if you want recovery, or if you want to just gamble on a draw. If you feel like you have enough hand traps in deck, then you can Magus as well, because we have we can put back Field Spell, we can put back Ogier, Ricardetto, Uppercutter, all this other stuff. So yeah, that's the 2-card combo. As to explain what happens when you don't draw stuff like this, like when you don't draw Museum, Heritage, etc., you're pretty much going to be losing out on the Phoenix Gearfried, because if you remember, we already opened Museum, so if we didn't, then if we didn't open that, then we can't, then we have to use the first Museum to get this out. So usually if you're opening like Fenrir, if it's usually like Fenrir Uppercutter, you're actually just going to be ending on the Appaloosa Charles, Angelica, plus the equips. So that's worst extenders is just going to be this type of word, which is still pretty insane, especially post side. You might be getting Roland into rotations, then you have a ring on top of that as well. Or it could be the double Charles if you open any other access to field spell. So yeah, that's a 2-card combo, and then obviously if they nib you, then you lose then you never get the Appaloosa, and instead you end on like Charles, Angelica with all this other stuff plus the other cards you have in hand. So even if you get nibued, it's absolutely not a it's still not a weak board at all, which is really nice for playing through hand traps, because a lot of people are playing nib this format, so it's important just to know lines to play through them. So yeah, that's the 2-card combo. So let's talk about the way forward. Rudy has already made a profile and guide on his variant that uses Vanquish Soul cards rather than Battle Boxer and World Chalice cards to achieve an end board, and I highly recommend checking that one out, as it is a great video to use as a guide. That being said, I'll be adopting that version in the coming weeks to see if I enjoy that build better than this current one. I appreciate it if you stayed until the end of this video, and of course if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to show people the way with this deck. If you are interested in videos like this, also let me know, as I typically don't do long form content videos. Thanks once again, and I'll see you next time.